Hello and welcome to Stories of Transformation, a NRCDV radio podcast production. I am your host, Yvonne Ortiz. Today our show is being presented in a different way than what you're used to hearing from us, and I'm excited about that. Like everyone else at this time, my guest and myself, we are all in our homes and joining via video call. Can everyone say hello?
Oh, hi, this is Heidi, Notario.
Hi, this is Arlene, Vassell.
Hello, this is Casey, Keene.
Hi, this is Asma, Yaqeen.
Hi, this is Jodi, Derr.
Welcome to our show, ladies.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you, Yvonne.
I'm so happy to have my colleagues here to celebrate motherhood. We're going to talk about our journey as mothers and maternal caregivers. Let's get started.
So one of the important or different things about this recording today is that we are recording from home. We are going, as everybody knows, through a very unique experience through the pandemic. And as you guys are experiencing, COVID-19 has truly changed our way of life, has impacted in ways that, we really, truly don't even know. And we are dealing with a lot of, increased fears. We are definitely, and I'm sure we're going to be building our resilience to overcome adversity. This is why today is so important. We're taking some time to uplift us, to celebrate us as mothers and maternal caregivers. And so I'm just very honored to have our National Resource Center staff with us today. I'm going to ask for each one of you to introduce yourself and maybe say something about motherhood. When did you become a mother? In short, ladies, how was that experience? And at the same time, when did you become an advocate? Well, I'll start then. I am Yvonne, of course, and I became a mother when I was 23. In 1991. I'm the mother of 3, and I became an advocate way before that while I was going to school. So I'm not going to say the year, but that's how long I've been an advocate. And maybe, the advocates are born. Maybe that's, What about you, Casey?
Thanks, Yvonne. Yes, I also was an advocate first. Before I was a mother, but I learned advocacy from my mother. So multiple generations sort of passing along the importance of that work. Mm-hmm. But I've been an advocate since I was a teenager, working as a volunteer at my mother's program. And I became a mother in 2008. And yeah, I'm a mother of 2 boys who are 11 and 7, going on 12 and 8.
You got your hands full.
Hi, Yvonne. This is Heidi.
Hi.
I became a mother 18 years ago. So I have a son who, yes, I can't believe he just turned 18. And I've been an advocate before that, actually. I was doing advocacy work with Latino families when I was pregnant with him.
Wow.
So it was a program that primarily supported Latino families. And yeah, so that is my story of when things began. I was 28 at the time.
Hi, Yvonne. This is Arlene. Hi, Arlene. Hi. So, advocacy. Well, I was a mom before I advocate. I had my first bundle of joy when I was 18 in New York. And then I had my son in 1992. So I hope folks are not doing the math. But if you are, I was great. Well, anyway, and I think advocacy, I think I've been an advocate forever. I think as a teenager, my advocacy was defined as rebellious, right? So I think I've been an advocate forever. Yeah. And as far as the domestic violence movement, though, I've been an advocate in this movement
for 20 plus years. So yeah, that's me. That's my motherhood and my advocacy background.
Great, Arlene.
Hey. I became a mother 19 years ago, and I was pregnant also while going to college at the same time. And I am an immigrant, and in going to school, I started advocating for immigrants, whoever couldn't speak for themselves or for their benefits in accounting society in New York City. So it became a second nature for speaking up for immigrants and minorities. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Jodi. I became a mother at 21. I've been a mom. I'm a mom to two girls. I have a 21-year-old and a 19-year-old. It's been an adventure. As for advocacy, I'm brand new. I'm brand new to the movement, but I have to say I've always had a passion for the work, just didn't know how to be a part of it. And I'm really excited about really being able to bring out what I've always kind of been feeling, if that makes sense.
Of course. Well, welcome. Jodi is one of our new additions to the NRCDV. We're very, very excited to have her. So people always talk about the joys of being a mother. But, you know, being a mother and an advocate poses so many different challenges. And I found this quote a while back that said, successful mothers are not the ones who never struggle. They are the ones that never gave up despite the struggle. How are you guys coping, or not coping, let's put it that way, with the multiple roles you have right now? I'm sure our listeners would love to hear that.
I could go. This is Heidi. And I'm sure that my colleagues, I think we're going to have a range of responses to this question because we all have a slightly different roles as a motherhood and caregiving, given where we are in life. But I could say this has been a year of uncertainty or a time of uncertainty for all of us and our children, right? So I feel like even my son who's 18, he's in the process of, he applied for colleges, he was accepted where he wanted to. So there's the uncertainty of when is he going to start, and some pieces around that process. So I think it's been an interesting time supporting him, to stay present. That school has not ended, even though he's a senior. He still has work to do at school, stay motivated. And then there's the caregiving piece that I also have because my mother lives with me and she provides a lot of support to me, and is the rock in my life. And then I also support her during this time. She's an older adult and is among the folks that are, at high risk because of her age. So it's really that she's a very independent person. So it's reminding her of we really need you to stay inside and then finding joy in the fact that she's been inside for weeks now. So I think it's been an interesting balancing act on both sides, for me.
And I don't know, Heidi, my mother, she's well. Of course, she's really healthy, but she's about your mother's age. And the thing that she finds the hardest is staying at home because she lives by herself. So we've found out that she's been escaping to the grocery store when she's been lying about it. So, even though I'm not with her, my role is as a caregiver, as you, it's just, trying to keep her entertained, sending her things. I send her a lot of jokes or, puzzles through her email. But that has been the hardest, and we tend to think that, no, children are the ones that we need to be looking out for. But she's been going to the store, with her mask and her gloves, but it's been really hard on her, so I appreciate you mentioning that. I don't feel alone.
Yeah.
Arlene, tell us.
Yeah, following Heidi's same almost pattern as far as with the caregiving role for my mom. So my mom is here in Maryland. and not in her home in Florida. So I thought, she'll be fine, but of course she's getting bored. So I'm like, you never go outside. How are you getting bored? And she was like, but if I wanted to go outside in the past, I could. So with my kids, though, they're out of the home and doing their adulting thing. So I think for me, it's just been, in my role, is just being like this, the hope, right? And to keep them inspired and to keep them following the precautions. So I'm being a mom from a distance, but I feel like I need to be a source of hope for them. So that's the role that I've really taken on with them, and really have gotten joy out of seeing them do the adulting thing and do it well and be independent. So it's been, it's been a balancing act with, work and being here with my mom, but it's also been a joy to watch my kids during this whole pandemic. They're really making me proud, right? So they're making mommy proud during this time with their adjustments with their jobs. They're both considered essential workers, so they're going to work and, taking the precautions. And, yeah, I'm getting joy out of that. Casey.
Thanks, Arlene. I just want to echo what you said. I love that you sort of see yourself as the hope, and I hope that I am that for my kids as well. And I also so relate to both you, Heidi, and Arlene and Yvonne around sort of looking out for our mom. My mom lives alone as well. She's taking all this very seriously, but I deliver her groceries and take distant walks with her. I think it's hard to be lonely at this time. I want my children to feel the hope and positivity that I have, but I also want them to see that it's okay to feel worried or sad or overwhelmed or frustrated.
This is Asma. So this has been a second nature for me, going to school, working full time, and raising little small kids. So it was, it's going back all the way again, working from home, with the kids being at home, cooking. So I guess once you become a mother, it becomes a second nature for you to multitask and to cope and deal with in any kind of situation that's thrown at you. So it's pretty nice, but kids are a little bit overwhelmed with the situation, not being able to go to school, and they are thrown out of their regular schedule. But the best advice, I just keep on telling them, hey, you got to come out of this and have to handle the situation, because it's never promised a smooth ride. Make the best out of it and just deal with it, because things can always go worse. Thank you.
So,
Jodi. Yes, Jodi.
This is Jodi. I've had some similar situations. First, about mother, my parents. Oh, wow. So my mom is not of the greatest health. So one of the biggest challenges for me has been trying to keep myself away from my parents, because I have children that are 19 and 21 and have, their little jobs that they go to, and it's grocery store, or nursing home. They want to work in a nursing home too, and it's just a little bit more of a risk for me to get this disease, and I don't want to take the chance, because I'm going to be honest, I've been thinking, and it's been a challenge since the start of this, that if my mom were to get this, I don't know if she would pull through. On the other side of that is my kids, and they're 19 and 21, and the older one is very respectful of the restrictions. The younger one, not so much. So I've had a little bit of a hard time balancing getting her to stay home. She's very funny, because she'll go to work and then she won't come home right away, and I find her at her friend's house. It's been interesting trying to balance all that and still work myself from home, and also, do the regular things like make sure meals are ready and everything, supplies are stocked up, all those things. It's definitely different, a different time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is so funny, Jodi, because your daughter is acting just like my mother. Both of them are escaping to their friend's house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And mine won't even go in the backyard.
I know. Oh my God. I remember that one time Maya Angelou during an interview, she was describing her mother, and she said to describe my mother would be to write about a hurricane in its perfect power or the climbing, failing colors of a rainbow. How would you describe yourself as a mother? Ooh.
I feel, this is Casey, I feel like I'm not the kind of mother, I'm not as a mother the way I thought I would be. I really thought that I would, be a sort of a tough mother. And I have found that I am the softest of me and my partner. I'm very soft as a mother, but I think that what I would describe myself as is hopefully the way my children see me is as creative and flexible. I hope.
What about, how would you describe your mother, Casey?
Oh, my mother has a big personality. I think I would describe my mother as fearless. That's how I would describe my mother.
So I think for me, what I keep talking about my two biological, I've inherited so many young women and young men over the course of my time being a mother for these two. So I'm thinking about all of them. I think they would refer to me as like the cool, caring, she'll feed you, but she has boundaries and you need to know them. However you would describe that. Yeah. So like they know, they come to the house, and even my children, they know, like I'll play, I'm cool, but they also know the boundaries too. So however you define that. But they gravitate to me, and they have conversations with me that sometimes I'm like, ooh, too much information, but I'm open to that. And the next question, I know, Yvonne, how would I describe my mother?
I know.
Yes, no, we call her the Queen Bee. So that's it. Like, she is the Queen Bee, and everybody knows she runs the show.
Queen Bee. That's great, Arlene.
So, Heidi, talk to me.
So I think, how does my son see me? And I think his friends too. There's some friends too that have spent time with us more than, over these years. I think I'm cool and flexible, and they see me as very progressive and with a lot of connections, and I travel. So all of these, I've been very determined not to be a helicopter parent, but to have the space for provide guidance and support. And also I have to keep an eye on my expectations. I do have very high expectations. Sometimes I think that they are a problem because I'm the traditional immigrant paradox. I expect my child to do all of these things that's usually not what happens, and it's a lot of pressure that I could place on my son. So I think that's the thing to keep an eye on, that I'm, especially now, this time around, going to college and doing this and that, So that's a balance that I'm trying to pay attention to. And then my mother, before you ask me that question, I would say she is a fearless hurricane. This is the person that crossed the Mexican border when she was 60 years old to be with us.
For me, I think my kids would describe me more of a friend than their father. And they cross the line pretty much. Pretty often they forget that I have to remind them, hey, I'm the mother in here. So otherwise, I'm very flexible. But at the same time, like, since we are an immigrant, as an immigrant parent, my expectation is pretty high from my kids. Like, we have boundaries about these are the things that you just do not cross.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have certain grades. You have to have certain values. So it's very important. And then sometimes they would also criticize me as a helicopter mom. constantly watching over where am I? Where are they going? No hanging out. No, who are you talking to? What are you doing? And like it's constantly, even though one is 19 and the other one is 14, still can't stop, just can't turn it off. And I am like a friend. Sometimes that's how they cross the line, that they forget that I'm their mother. So I have to hold on to myself again. And now when it comes to my mother, she was completely opposite of me. Very strict, very, very, very strict mom. So she knew that, and my dad, he worked abroad, so she was raising us practically as a single mother. So she couldn't have the luxury of being too much friendly, and we will take her for granted. But I think that made me a better person. Now it's Jodi, your...
I really am struggling with how to describe myself as a mom. I'd have to say I'm a good confidence in my children. I always am very accepting of anything they have to tell me. I, try to walk them and talk them through things, help them understand things better. But I'm also very reasonable and a realist, and I'm not shy to tell them my thoughts and opinions, which maybe they may or may not like. I don't expect them to use them most of the time. I guess it's really tough to kind of describe. Like I like to have fun with them and know that like home is comfortable and they always have home to come to, and no matter what their choices are, and they can like lean on me to help them through things. But I also try to like teach them how to do things themselves and be self-reliant, especially as women, because it's a tough world sometimes for a woman, and they'll probably be the first to tell you. I always tell them they have to stand on their own 2 feet and be strong. And as for my mom, very different from me. Very, very different people. My mom is very stubborn. She's very, very outspoken. I can be, but not to the extreme of my mom. She's a very, very loving person. Absolutely adores her grandchildren. But I also if it's not her way, it's not happening. I don't know how to say that. Just like going to the store every day, even though she knows she's not supposed to do that, she doesn't care. She's going to do it anyway. Yeah.
We can definitely relate to that. And some of you were or hesitated when I asked for you guys to describe the way that, or your mothering and how you are as a mother, because we are really tough on ourselves. And talking about self-love, I'm listening to you guys, and our listeners I'm sure can relate. Sometimes we want others to describe us because we feel like we shouldn't, sing our praise or say things about ourselves. So let's talk about self-love. I think it's important. How do you continue to show yourself grace, show yourself love, and thrive when so much is put on your shoulders? What is your trick, your secret?
My treat is to watch Luther, and I am a huge fan of Idris Elba right now. And,
all right.
Awesome.
So that is now I just go and sit and I'm just binge watching all of his shows, and it's my entertainment and it's my time. Nobody comes around me when I'm watching his show.
That's great. Showing yourself some love. Yeah.
Yes.
This is Heidi. To me, it's a work in progress. To answer that question, I think I do better sometimes than others. And I guess what helps me at times is go back to something. In this case, my father always said that we cannot give what we don't have. So if I'm completely depleted and wiped out, then I know, or if I'm unhappy, or out of balance, I know I'm not as helpful, to my son in that case. But like I said, I'm not always as good at it, let's just say, but when I can be present, with myself, and that means for me different things. I think it's trying to be active as much as I can, taking time to sit with myself and just, be present and breathe and, do that. But it's a journey, because I think, to your point about expecting others to tell us about us, how we are, I think it's also, I was raised in a way that this idea of self-care was not the thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
As women, I was socialized in a still very traditional way when I look back, that we were supposed to be the caregivers and the pillars of the family and all of that. So to take time for ourselves, in this case for myself, has been a journey that I'm really doing the best I can, and sometimes I don't do as well. Sometimes it's connected to some kind of guilt, to say to everyone, this is my time now, and I deserve it, right? So
That resonates so much with me. And I think that's true for me, at least, that I find myself so in tune to others' needs that I have to really be deliberate about paying attention to the physical cues that tell me that I need something, and then, do that work of identifying what is it that I need, and, seeking to fill that need. So Asma, I'm totally with you. Like, sometimes what I need is time alone with my favorite show, or, sometimes I just want to go for a run and listen to my podcast. And, other times what I need is affection from my children even, sometimes I just need a hug. Sometimes I want to just stay in that hug. And so, yeah, I think that's the work. It's this work of, first of all, acknowledging your own needs, and naming them, and then accepting others' support, accepting others' love, and, receiving it. And so I think that's a practice that, yeah, is really important right now.
So, self-love and what is inspiring now and through challenging times. I think I found myself many years ago in a situation that was not healthy. So of course, coming out of that, I had to do the work. I was forced to do the work around self-love and around prioritizing my needs. And as my children got older and, moved out and started doing the adulting thing, I had to focus on me, right? In this new life. So I think for me though, on a regular basis, and lessons learned from coming out of my healing journey that was connected to other situations, my candles, they're a must. If I didn't mention my candles, my kids would be like, "Ma, you need candles." So I need my candles, aromatherapy candles. And also I think for me, how I start my day really do impact my entire day. And if I don't start my day with my usual rituals, with my grandma's cup and my coffee and my meditation and reading my devotionals, my day really do get shot. It really, and I've seen it happen. So my morning rituals are really necessary. And I do them, right? I make time to make sure I get up early and I get them done. And something that's really small, that's satisfying to me as well, is making up my bed. It's a really small thing. I get joy out of making my bed up every morning. So with this, and now I have a new ritual, right? On Saturdays, I try not to. I'm like, this is my day. I'm not making it up. So my mom is looking at me now too, because this is something that I've inherited from her and all of us, me, my daughter, my cousins, all of us. So I'm like, I'm not making it up. And she's like, you're not? And I'm like, no. So that's a thing now, right? On Saturdays, I'm trying not to. I'm trying really hard not to. And that's a part of my self-care. I could jump in and out of it like I want to, right? Because if I make it up like I usually do, I don't get in it all day. So yeah, I've been changing and adjusting. The only thing that's been consistent though is my morning rituals. I do them 7 days a week. Yeah.
I have to say that my self-care is those long walks, taking the dog for a walk, just taking in nature. I just love staring at everything beautiful about nature. Just do. Another self-care that's kind of more different is, like when I'm watching movies and stuff, I have like 100 big fluffy blankets on my couch right now. And I let them there because I love to cuddle up in them, and I just do. And nobody moves them because I'll just put them back. And I hate to say this, but they're not in any kind of nice form. They're just puffy and fluffy and there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And I love meditation. Meditation sounds, anything like that. That's where I get lost. I just love to just like teach myself to like breathe through your nose and pay attention to your breathing when I get a little too stressed out, and that seems to really help. So yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, thank you guys. And I would add that for me, this is Yvonne, it's just jumping on my bicycle. And we're talking about a bicycle that has a basket, that has lights. We're not talking about, nothing to exercise. It's a huge beach bike and just, going for a little ride. That's just how I'm taking care of myself. And now it's harder because, you need to have a mask. You need to take precautions. But I still am able to go out. I'm lucky enough that where I live, there's not a lot of people, so I get to do that. So that's something that heals me truly. The last topic that I wanted to talk about, because I know a lot of our listeners are advocates, mothers, and they balance so many things at the same time. And our society sometimes makes us feel like we need to feel guilty because we like going to work. Or we need to feel guilty because we're leaving our children at home. So how do you guys deal with that guilt? I remember when my kids were younger, by the way, I have 3 that are adult now, they grew up in the shelter because I was facilitating support group sessions. I would bring them with me. They would help me, cleaning the playroom or doing whatever chores needed to be done, volunteer work. But they were part of it. So that helped me not to feel as guilty. I brought my family into my work. And sometimes that is not, but I was young. I didn't know any better. So how do you guys deal with that guilt?
That's a really tough question.
So I can go. This is Arlene, and I'll go because I don't have minor children. So this may be a tidbit easier for me than my colleagues who might have to balance taking care of minor, children under 18, I should say, or very close to 18. I think back then I did have guilt, and I know I've heard a colleague in the past said, as a woman of color doing this work, we've sacrificed so much to do this work. So I can definitely relate to that when my children were younger. Like I sacrificed a lot because, again, as women of color, we're doing twice as much and we're trying to prove ourselves and at all costs, right? At all costs necessary. So I could only imagine what that cost me, right? But I think even during all of that, I still made every game. I still made sure that I was doing what I needed to do as a mother and doing what I needed to do at work twice as much. So I think where I really fell short was probably taking care of myself. Myself was last to my children, to my family, and to my work. So if I had it all to do again with minor children, I would pay attention to how I'm taking care of myself while I'm taking care of everybody else and trying to balance that out. So I think that's what I would say to advocates. I think that's what you started out with, is prioritize, right? And the word I was looking for is sacrificing. That's probably, I sacrificed myself. So I wouldn't suggest that people sacrifice themselves for the movement, for anything else. Even during this pandemic, I've had time to reflect and think about what's priority, right? And I think, people should do that on a regular basis. That's what I would really, really suggest. Prioritize, and don't fall for the pressures of this world that tells you need to do more, you need to do this, you need to do that. Because for everybody, whatever you need to do is basically based on your situation and your circumstances.
Thank you, Arlene. I so appreciate all that you shared. And I think it's so true. There's a tremendous amount of cultural pressure on moms to be everything and do everything and be perfect in so many ways.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes the guilt so palpable. And I think for me, when I'm challenged by that overwhelming sense of guilt, what I do is I look at the people that my children are and just marvel at how wonderful, what great kids, how I'm so proud of their character and the thoughtful choices that they make and their talents and their strengths and their kindness. And I guess when I focus on that, I feel like I'm doing all right. So, and if I remember that that's what's important, that they are people they are good people, good, kind people, then I can offer myself some grace around all of the pressure of all the things I'm not doing that I'm supposed to be doing as a mom.
So two things for me, come up when you ask that question, Yvonne. I think in this particular country, we are trapped in between two situations. One is the traditional gender role expectations, what mothers are supposed to do and what women are supposed to do and how, and the impossible policies around paid maternal leave or parental leave, which is just puts us in a horrible predicament of having to put children in daycare in very, very incredibly young ages, to then pay a very high price for daycare. I mean, we're caught in this impossible scenario. So I do think I think we have to put a lot of energy into changing those policies, because I do feel like there is a lot to be said about a society about, around the practices for taking care of newborns, of young children. And it's so upside down, right? So I think it creates a very difficult situation for our lives, the quality of our lives. I think we are exhausted. We're guilty, feeling guilty. We're trying to do it all with at a time in our children's lives, usually, that is not the time to be going to daycare, right? But we have no choice because we don't have the means. Many of us, some do, and the majority do not. We have to go back to work. So I just wish those policies were different and would really reflect, the importance of that maternal-child bond that's so important to happen at the beginning of every person's life. I don't think this country centers any of that. It's actually the opposite. So we would have to rise above all of that to really be able to dismantle all of these roles, be okay with them, and then continue. And I think I can relate to Arlene's point about, we've done it, clearly. We've survived that. All of us on this call, we all have children that are older now. Some are adults. They're okay, right? I'm making this assumption. Our kids are okay, and they're excelling. They're doing great. But it was at a high price. I think some of us did that and neglected ourselves in the process. And that, to me, is where things land around motherhood in this country in particular.
The guilt that I have after my kids are grown up, and I'm looking at Casey every time, the amount of time that she dedicates with her kids, playtime, and she has the patience. And I just regret that now my kids, that I didn't between working full time and didn't have enough time to play with the kids, or didn't give a patient's hearing when they wanted to talk to me as a kid. And I was like, oh, I'm tired. Can you wait a minute? So now I'm just rewinding everything. And no matter what I do, I just stop. And if they have something to say, I just wait and I give them a patient's hearing, because I feel like I have that guilt conscience that I should have talked and listened to them and be more available for them, which physically wasn't possible, working full time, coming home cooking, or didn't have the energy to play with them. So now as I feel like that I did have the opportunity to spend more time with them, and maybe it would have been if I was a stay-home mom, and I miss those times. I wish that I could just go back and I would say, you know what, I will just dedicate more time. And I love what Casey does. She plays card games and this and that with her kids. I'm like, I wish I could have done those things. But now I'm like, whatever was done was done. So now I'm just trying to give more patience hearing to them and pause. Thank you.
You know, Asma, you're so kind to me, but I think that's the thing about mothering is there's never enough time, right? There's never enough time, and even now in this situation where many of us find ourselves at home with our kids, it's almost this odd kind of situation where you're together, but you're all working on different things, and
right.
you're not focused on each other, and we're distracted by everything that's happening, and we're all living through this moment of collective trauma together, and we all only have so much that we can actually give to one another. So it's just a weird situation, and I think the gift of time is the thing that we all crave, right?
It's never enough time to give to your children. I think even if they grow older and as they grow matured, mother love is always there. And I think that even as my mother passed already, and I think that even at this age, I would want her to be there for me. I think it's never enough. So that's why I just try to dedicate my time now and as much as I can to talk to them and listen to them. So that's the best we can do.
Yeah.
I hear Asma up there, and I understand what she's saying very much, because I came from a job where I spent 10 hours a day minimum for years. I don't think there was many days that I didn't work less than 10 hours. And I tried to focus heavily on quality time with my girls when I did have the chance, but I found myself asking quite often to them, you know, or I'd apologize. I'd say, I'm sorry. I feel like I need to spend more time. I'm not spending enough time with you, and I'd ask them, am I not doing enough for you? How can I make this better? But there's only so many things you can do when you're in that kind of a situation. You have to make tough choices. You have to still care for your family financially in the way they need to be reared, but yet how important it is to spend that quality time with them, because your influence will mold them as adults. So it was really hard going through that, and I actually had some very tough decisions to make, as you all know, because now I'm part of your team. And not that I don't expect to have the same dedication in a job that I had before. I just understand now that the balance of being with my family is more important to me in my life than working 10 hours, 12 hours every day in a job, as much as I loved it and I was passionate about it. So there were really difficult choices to make. And yeah, I really wish I had some of those hours back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much, Jodi. Ladies, this has been a great conversation. I want to thank you for joining our show today. I'm sure our listeners would love to have like a part 2, maybe next year when we honor our mothers again. And I want to close with this beautiful quote. When I read it, it reminded me of all of you. And it's from Kavita Ramdas, and it says, we need women who are strong, so strong that they can be gentle, so educated that they can be humble, so fierce that they can be compassionate, so passionate that they can be rational, and so disciplined that they can be free. Thank you so much for joining us today, and to our listeners for spending this time with us. Any last minute gems you want to throw out there, or messages for our advocates that are mothers and maternal caregivers?
I don't know. As I was listening to everybody, and Yvonne, you keep us on this path, I just want to remind folks, you can't pour from an empty cup. You really can't. You can't help others unless you center yourself. That's mine.
Very, very good words of wisdom.
This is Heidi. I would say give yourself grace. I think looking back and beating yourself up because you haven't done this well enough or long enough or perfect enough, I think just give yourself grace. It's okay. We've done the best we could, and we'll continue doing the best we can.
Yep. I agree. Thanks, Heidi.
This is Asma. I would just say to all the mothers, it's very important to love yourself, embrace yourself, and just treat yourself, because you are the mother. And if you are good, the children will be good too. Thank you.
I think everything that's been said is beautiful. And I guess what I would add is lean on your community. You don't have to do it all yourself. And we want our children to benefit from the communities we've built around them. So let's lean on each other.
To our listeners, thank you so much for joining us today. Please feel free to share your own self-care and advice with us. We can't do this work without you. Have a good evening, ladies. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good job, ladies.
You just listened to Stories of Transformation, an NRCDV radio podcast production. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at NRCDV. To hear more NRCDV podcasts and to access additional resources on gender-based violence and related topics, visit nrcdv.org. Stories of Transformation is an NRCDV radio podcast production brought to you by the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence. Support is provided by the Administration on Children, Youth and Families, Family and Youth Services Bureau, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Its contents are solely the responsibility of the authors and do not necessarily represent the official views of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.